What did I just read? Welcome, everybody, to What Did I Just Read? I'm trying to be high energy because I have none.
You sound possessed.
People have immediately turned off our podcast.
What the fuck is this?
So I do it again. Welcome, everybody, to What Did I Just Read? There we go.
Oh,
that's the NPR version.
We went sultry on that one.
My God.
Even with the shoulder dip and everything.
I'm delirious. I'm Holly.
I'm LA.
And welcome to our, is this our third Planar Pleasure Wheel?
It sure is.
It is.
It's our March one.
Dun, dun, dun.
So Holly, remind us who got pain, who got pleasure, and what books did we have to read?
We both got to choose from this wheel, and I chose pleasure, and I was assigned Abby Jimenez, Part of Your World.
Yes.
And LA.
I got pain, girl.
Got pain. It was your choice. And I assigned to you Tryst Six Venom by
Penelope Douglas. Yes. I chose pain because I had pleasure for so long, and I was like, oh, surely, it's not going to be too bad.
LA, how has your reading experience been? Please share.
Okay, let me back up.
Let
me tell you, I might have said this on the last episode, but I really do enjoy Penelope Douglas. I have read all of her standalones except this one. So I've read...
I know you read Birthday Girl, Punk 57, Credence.
Yep. And then there's the Misconduct, which is
I've not read that.
I liked it. It was good. So I think that's actually all of them. And then there's, of course, the standalone. Now, she has series, like the Corrupt series and Reckless
I've read the first of the Corrupt series.
Okay. I have not. Did you like it?
It's
okay.
It was
motorcycle stuff?
No.
Oh.
It's like a rich family stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been pushing off this one. I'm glad that I finally picked it up because I feel like I've accomplished something. I'm going to be honest with you. I have read up to 94% in my Kindle, and it ends at 96. So I'm right at prom, basically. So I haven't finished prom. And then there's the 4 years later. So you can fill me in on that. Because I don't care.
You sound like you loved this book. Tell me more,
Holly, did I struggle through this one? Okay. So you've talked about this book before, so I'm going to sound a little redundant by pretty much repeating what you've said. But we follow we follow two girls who are in high school. You follow Olivia, Jaeger, however you say her last name, Jaeger, who goes by Liv, and then who lives on the wrong side of the tracks. So set in Florida, and it's very like West Side Story-esque, I guess.
Oh, faux show. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So she has a family that she has like 5 brothers. Her parents have both passed. There's a lot of tragedy and a lot of shit going on, but she's the youngest, and she goes to this very rich Catholic school.
And she's very bright, very smart.
Very smart. Yeah, she's going to Dartmouth when she graduates, but she's a theater buff. So I really liked Liv. I thought she was really great. She reminds me a lot of you, actually. Like, she was just like fun. She didn't deal with a lot of shit. She dealt with so much of Clay. Clay can fucking die. Like, I could not.
Clay is awful. Yeah.
So this is a bully romance, I guess.
Oh, this is 100% a bully romance.
Oh God.
And they are the worst to each other.
Awful. It's so toxic.
So awful. Yeah.
And so the whole time you're reading, so basically Liv is out and is gay, and Clay is not out but she is gay. And she's discovering that she is through this book, right? And it's
Yeah.
their senior year. It's the last 3 months of their senior year. And everything just kind of goes batshit crazy. And they go, and it's so like the beginning of the book, I so enjoyed. I was like, this is great. Like, there's just this toxicity between the two, but also there's like this weird love, and Clay is fucked up because she lost her younger brother and her parents have this crazy relationship. They're divorcing, but then they get back together at the end of the book, whatever. And Clay has to be a debutante and she's a socialite and she's super popular and she has all these stressors in life. She definitely does not want to be gay, but she has been in love with Liv from afar for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point of where they just go for it. And
Mm-hmm.
the sex scenes, top notch.
They so good.
Oh my
Holy
God.
guacamole.
They are crazy in the best way
But
possible.
but also, like, they're high schoolers. In my
Yeah.
head, I was dying inside because, like, ew, gross, but ew, you know?
Yeah.
So I had to,
Yeah.
in my head, let's age you up to about at least 21.
Oh, I couldn't. Their immaturity was just like driving me crazy.
Oh,
And
yeah,
they would
100%.
fight and they'd get back together and they would fight and they would just,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, and it's like on my Kindle, it's 576 pages on my Kindle.
Uh-huh.
So I'm guessing it's like a 400-page book. So it's just 400 pages of like all this build up to the debutante ball and the prom and then the fighting between the families and all, and everybody else has their own shit too. There are so many characters in this book.
Yeah.
Everybody's going through something, and I think that's the underlying message, is that everybody goes through their own shit, but you're
And
kind of
especially at,
self-absorbed.
like, this age, you're so self-absorbed, just like you said, and you don't really realize how much everybody else is going through at the same time.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how they grew in these last few months of their time in high school. And then I guess, so what happens at the end? So
Oh
do
gosh,
they,
it's been so long since I've read
okay, let
this
me
book.
remind you.
Okay.
So Clay is supposed to go to Wake Forest, but she has this weird side hobby, which she goes to a mortician and she helps with getting people embalmed and getting their makeup done and stuff and ready for funerals. So
Mhm.
the Miss whatever her name is, Graves, I want to say Graves, but it's not, says, I'll sponsor you and you can go to New York and you can get your degree in mortuary sciences if you want. So I think that's where it's going to end up, is that she ends up going to New York.
Mhm.
Liv goes to Dartmouth, which is also like New Jersey, New York, somewhere up there. So on the East Coast. That's what I think is going to happen.
Oh my gosh. LA, I read this book so long ago. It's really hard for me to remember.
We're just going to go with that. I think that's what's
Yeah.
going to happen. Yeah, we're just going to go with that. So here's another thing too, is that in their whole relationship that they've started, which doesn't even get defined as a relationship until 400 fucking pages in the
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
book,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
but they talk all the time about they're on this tight timeline. So like school's ending,
Mhm.
they're going on their separate ways. That is the most genuine thing ever. When you're in high school, you're just like, this is it. I'm never going to see these people again. I'm never going to talk to them. I'm never going to see them. I'm never, like, you're just like,
Yeah.
your life's just totally going to change. And it does change, but it's not like you're never going to see them.
Oh, really? Maybe for you, but for me, no. I don't think I've seen anybody from high school except for a mutual friend, Carly.
Social media. I haven't seen people like in the flesh in a while, but I'm definitely like, I know what's going on with people, and then you have the,
No, I don't.
but their high school experience in this book is like, oh, and then the meaning too of this book. So Tryst is the mother's name, and she
Mhm.
had 6 kids. So it's
Yeah.
Tryst Six, and that's like their group or whatever. And then Venom, there's this short paragraph in the book that talks about venom and like snake venom, and
Mhm.
you can poison people and you strike back or whatever. And so I guess that's why it's called Tryst Six Venom.
That that is also my guess to why it's titled
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. I also really liked the whole how Penelope Douglas took her time with Clay and figuring out if she was bisexual, if she was gay. coming out, Liv respecting that she wanted to come out on her own time, not outing her,
Yeah.
that whole process. I was just like, it was just beautifully, delicately done.
I also really enjoyed that bit of it. What did you think of the bully part of it?
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Did you
mm-mm,
hate it?
mm-hmm. Every moment. I hated it. I couldn't sympathize with Clay. I get what the author was trying to do. So Clay lost her brother to leukemia freshman year of high school. So 3 or 4 years ago from when this book is being talked about. And when her brother passed, her parents just kind of lost each other. And
Yeah.
that moment of grief really resonated with me too. When you experience a tragedy, you just kind of do certain things or whatever. And so I really enjoyed reading that. And that seemed really relatable. But her fighting so hard and her being so angry with
Yeah.
Liv because Liv was just this person that she was in love with and she's fighting so hard against that. The
Yeah.
bullying entailed, oh my craziness.
This is the book where she has the Sharpie
Yes.
and
Yeah.
she writes every awful thing on her body, right?
Circles body parts and says what's wrong with these body parts. Yep, that was awful. I blocked that out of my mind because I hated that so much.
She's so mean to Liv. So mean.
Awful, awful, awful.
Like,
Saying really crude things in school,
yeah.
not liking. Nope, 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 nope.
No, 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 no,
Nope.
no.
And then doing things like toying with her the whole time, like writing this beautiful letter, putting it in her locker about how much Liv means to Clay. And then the very next day, Clay being like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. What? What? And Liv gave her so many chances. I was with her brother, her eldest brother, Macron or whatever his name was.
Uh-huh.
That the brother was like, she's just going to use you. This is always on her terms. You're
Oh,
following anything that
100%.
she
Yeah.
says. And then I wanted something to happen with Chloe because Chloe comes into the picture
Mm-hmm.
and she's like an out from Austin, which I was like,
Hey.
of course you're from Austin. She is out and open, and Liv has this inner conversation. She was like, it wouldn't be this hard if Clay was out and we could hold hands. Oh God, it made me want to cry. We could just hold hands together and we could kiss
Yeah.
openly and we could do all this stuff, but she's not ready. She can't, whatever. And it was just, and then Clay's inner my monologue, her whole thing just seemed so naggy. I'm like, you're gay. You love her. You love eating her out. You love sticking your fingers in her. You're basically they did public sex everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
They're
Mhm,
grabbing
mhm,
each
mhm.
other's. The panty scene was a little weird.
I don't
So,
even remember it. Isn't
if I
that
tell
awful?
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
tell me about it.
So, Liv gets like drenched it like she gets wet or something like that. Like I can't remember why she's soaking wet. I think she ran in the rain or something.
Uh-huh.
And then Clay tells her to strip down or take her clothes off, or she starts to change. Nope, that's what happens. She's changing in the back of the theater room or whatever. And Clay's watching her and this and that. And then they get a little heated. I don't know if they're kissing or whatever. But then somebody comes in and interrupts, which happens 15 times in this book. They cannot have a scene
No, it's
where they're not.
constantly. I think even the first time where Liv goes down on her or fingers her in the hotel room, people come
Yeah.
in or
And
are
no,
in the bed
they're
next to
sleeping.
them. Yeah.
They're sleeping. Christian and Amy are sleeping right next to them while she's eating her out. And I'm like, you're going to hear everything.
Everything.
But back at the theater scene, so then they get broken up. Then she loses her black panties as she doesn't know where they are.
Mhm.
Then they go and Liv works at a dress shop and walks in on Clay changing into her debutante dress, which A+ on Liv making that dress god awful. But she's wearing her underwear. Like she's wearing the stolen underwear, and then they start touching each other. And I'm like, and at this point, they're not pining. They're not in love. Clay fucking hates her. She's wearing her underwear. And I was like, is what?
I'm like
No, no, I
fanning
was
my
not hot. No, it was not hot. It was
Fucking
strange.
loved this whole book. I don't even care how strange it was.
It
How
gets hot.
it
No,
like
it does.
I feel like I learned so much about myself that I'm still so confused about from this stupid book.
I'm so like though, and then the whole so I'm gonna give you my star rating at this point
Uh-huh,
because I've
uh-huh,
been
uh-huh,
talking
uh-huh.
forever and I really want to know what you thought of Part of Your World. I'm gonna give this book 4 stars, and hear me out. I'm taking off a half star because it's god awfully fucking long and it should have been
Uh-huh.
half the size. I can't do it. There's too many breakups. There's too many no. And then the
Okay.
other half star is the whole subplot with Callum and the guys and the whole West Side Story brawl between the two. And like,
Mm,
okay,
yeah.
because I totally like I still don't understand what happened. It's like Callum says to Liv, I will give up my part in Romeo and Juliet that you want so badly if
Hmm.
you and Clay have sex with me and this foxhole thing. Do you remember this?
A little bit.
Like, yeah. And so I'm like, what? So this goes on and on and on, like throughout the book. Callum is constantly like Clay's heterosexual type person that's always there, and there is a prom date, and they're kind of like boyfriend, girlfriend, but not, or whatever. And
Yeah.
then Callum
They're
it
only
gets
like
to,
boyfriend girlfriend for status reasons, right?
yes, yeah, because
Basically.
their dads work together.
Yeah.
And there's this whole like
Well, and
they're
then
trying to
like
take over
he's
the
super
land,
popular and she's super popular. It's that peak popular couple-ness vibe that they have.
whatever. Then they kidnap Liv. Do you remember this?
No, I
This
don't.
okay, can I tell you, I'm so glad you don't remember this part because it's so fucking unneeded. It's unneeded in this book. It's they're leaving the debutante ball
Uh-huh.
and Liv is wearing the dress that she made and Clay is wearing the suit, right? They're in the limo,
Uh-huh.
they're going at it, celebration, whatever, for showing up to the debutante ball in a gay relationship. Like Milo punches out the limo window, grabs Liv, takes her to this secret place or whatever, and then tries to rape her, basically. Mm-hmm.
Why
Do
don't
you
I
remember
remember
this?
this? I like blocked it
Because it's
out.
so stupid.
I feel
And
like I just
then,
remembered like the crazy things between Liv and Clay, and that's it. And then they're
yeah,
just like,
nope, there's this whole other subplot. Then Clay calls her brothers. The brothers show up. They have this massive brawl. You
mhm.
find out that Callum is gay and had sex with Dallas, one
Oh
of the other. Do
yeah.
you remember this? Yes. And he
Yes.
can't get it up to rape. Liv's taunting him too and saying all this stuff.
I
It's
do remember this a little bit. I remember how gross it is.
so, so stupid. So stupid. I want to know,
Yeah.
I want to get back to Liv and Clay's relationship and what we should remember from the book. Not all this other drama shit. We don't need it. Don't
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah. I totally see what you're saying. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So that's why I knocked it off too. I'm like maybe a 3.5, maybe a 4, because now it's starting to get to me because I'm kind of like, ugh. Um, but yeah, but I loved the writing. I didn't like how young they were either, so that's a knock. But
But that's just like a personal knock.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a knock on the book, but I'm so glad you made me read this. I'm going to check it off. I don't ever, if you make me read another 400, make me read another Sapphic, but not a, you know what? Payback's a bitch because I did the exact same thing to you. And I
I
know this
mean,
feel. How are you still my friend?
I
How are
don't
you not
know.
upset
I don't
with
know.
me?
I don't, well, I am constantly mad at you for the choices that you have given me. But, I've lived through them. It's fine.
I love you still. I hope you get a pleasure because I know exactly what you're reading next. So, but anyways, I'm digressing and jumping ahead. How was Part of Your World?
Oh my God. It's just so good. I like I'm just gonna reveal I gave it 5 stars because it was so cute. It was like angsty and like the way that I love. And I gobbled it up. It was so good. So you're following Alexis and what's his name? No.
Noah? No, I don't
No,
know his name.
no, 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 no. I want to say it's not Jacob because Jacob is the name of the guy in the next book. It is, my brain's not working anymore.
Why
Daniel.
can't I remember?
Daniel.
Daniel.
Which is so silly that I can't remember that because that's my brother's name. I really love this book. I just loved the tug and pull of Alexis and having to deal with her life and her struggles with her family and him not really quite fitting in. She is a Montgomery, and her whole family has built this whole hospital in Minneapolis. It started 125 years ago, this whole hospital, and there has been a Montgomery in this hospital since the very beginning. And she is now the only working Montgomery doctor in this hospital. She has a twin brother who has left for Cambodia and has married a pop star randomly and has decided he is never coming back. Okay, now he leaves her by herself at this hospital, which she's kind of okay with until she meets this 28-year-old stud muffin and Wakan.
Nope. I don't know. I can't.
Okay.
I can't. I don't. Your guess is better than mine.
I'm just gonna say Wakan until she meets and sleeps with this 28-year-old Wakan guy, and
It almost sounds like you're saying Wakanda, and I'm
I
dying.
know, and I'm like, I don't know how to fix it because I can't. I think that's how they say it. Wakan.
Nope. Yep.
Nope. Whatever accent I try to throw on it doesn't make it better. So it's Wakan is how I'm gonna say it. So we follow Alexis first, who's coming home from a funeral and has run into a ditch and gets pulled out of this ditch by some random guy, ends up meeting this same random guy in a bar, and he is very
Same
hot.
night.
Same night, yeah. He's very hot. He's very cute. She ends up going home with him, not really meaning to go home with him. She just goes to the bar to get a hot meal before she makes the rest of the trek back home to, I don't know, one of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, we'll say. I think it's Minneapolis, right?
Yes.
And she ends up going home with him. He's really sweet. He makes her grilled cheese and has literally the best sex of her life. She's 37, going on 38. So she sleeps with this guy, finds his wallet on the floor, discovers that he's 28, and promptly freaks out and immediately books it.
And what's going on in her home life before we get into his?
Oh yeah, her home life is so fucking shitty. So she drives back to her home. She lives in a really nice house. And also, she has just recently broken up with her chief of surgery boyfriend, who is 10 years older than her. And he has now decided that he wants to move back into their house, which they have co-bought together. Legally, he has every right to move back into this house, which he brings the police to this house to say, I have purchased this house with her. My name is on all of the utilities. This is also my house. I am moving back in. And she has no place to say no. Awful.
And her parents love him. They really want her to settle down with him
and to marry him because her parents are all about prestige. He's the chief of surgery. And so her dad specifically fucking loves Neil, and his name is Neil. Sorry, all Neils, but like if your name is Neil in a book, you're a bad guy. You're a bad, bad guy. All Neils are bad guys in books, just like FYI.
And he lives in the basement. She still lives in their bedroom.
Yeah, he moves back into the house. They have their specific spots in the house. And she is just hating life. And then she comes to terms and realizes through therapy that he has emotionally abused her their whole relationship. He's done like all these awful little things, like told her how awful she smells. they'll be ready to go to a party and he will smell her and say, "Oh, hey, did you shower or did you brush your teeth?" Just like these little manipulative things to make her feel awful about herself. And so she got into the habit of brushing her teeth multiple times a day, showering multiple times a day, just because
Like
of these
crazy habits. Yeah.
crazy habits. Not only that, but before he would wake up in the morning, she would wake up and put on makeup. Just awful, awful things like that.
Yeah. She couldn't be
Which,
her genuine self.
yeah, throughout the book, she explains, I think Abby Jimenez does a really good job of explaining emotional abuse and that it's something that's really hard for outsiders to see and for outsiders to comprehend, and especially to see the circle of abuse where you have the super downs of abuse, the really bad moments where you're experiencing the really sad, depressing moments of abuse, and then you have the upswing, right? Where your abuser's being really kind, really sweet, really apologetic, and you think that, oh, they're loving me. This is like a really high moment. And then something happens that they don't like. And then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, you're a piece of trash, a piece of garbage. You've done something terribly wrong. And now you're being punished for it. And now you feel like a piece of garbage, and then the cycle will continue on. And I think she did a really good job of explaining the cycle of abuse throughout this book, because she not only has Alexa's cycle of abuse with Neil, but she also has another character, Liz, and Jake's cycle of abuse, which is a physical cycle of abuse throughout the story. And so I think she did a really good job of mirroring those two cycles, right? That one can be mental and emotional, and one can be physical, mental, and emotional, right? She makes a point to point out that the abusers, where I think a lot of people struggle with why women won't leave their situations. And she points out how abusers will make it so they hold all the power so that the women feel they cannot leave. There is no exit. And I think she did a really good job for Alexis in that she saw she finally could leave because Neil cheated on her. And she saw that, like, this is my one and only exit to leave this relationship. And then she left. And she sees Liz in a very abusive, physically abusive relationship. And she's trying to help her to find that same exit situation, right?
I liked the conversation with her parents. You know, her dad and her mom are also going through of
Oh,
their own
yeah.
form of
Mm-hmm.
abuse,
Yeah.
right? She's trying to explain how he emotionally abused her. Neil did
Yeah.
too. And the dad's like, well, did he ever like touch you? Did he ever, like, in his mind, he can't equate that there's anything when you hear abuse, people automatically think physical. So I think that
Right.
that short little conversation and then also seeing it in their relationship and her
Yeah.
parents'
In her
relationship.
parents' relationship, because she also talks about how her mom modeled her relationship with her dad for Alexis to then be in the same relationship with Neil, the same dynamic. You see how abuse begets abuse, right? There's a training there, even if it's not meant to be, because her mom is just trying to seek relief. Like, I need you to act this way to make sure your dad doesn't react this way towards me, right? And that was just really, those parts were really hard to read because
Mhm.
ugh, it was just sad. So, anyway, oh my gosh. Yeah. I think this also speaks to how romance novels can be so much more than what people think that they are.
Mhm.
Because I think we
Mhm.
also had that with our last book, Priest, right?
Yep. Yep.
People think that they're just these trashy, smutty novels, or they're just like people are just trying to get their heady romance fixes. But no, there's so much more.
Well, tell us a little bit about Daniel and his situation and how he's cemented. So she's cemented in Minneapolis because of her family
Right.
and blah, blah, blah. So what's the deal with Daniel? Why is he in this small town? What does he do?
So Daniel is the last Grant in his hometown. So similar to Alexis, his family has basically founded this small town, Wakan, duh, is how I want to finish that, but I'm struggling. And there has always been a Grant in this town, and he is the last one. And he is the current mayor. There's always been a Grant mayor in the town, and his family has always been the savior of the town. There are stories put up in the VFW in the bar about how his family has saved the town throughout time. 100 years ago, a family member made bread for whenever there was like a huge snowstorm, delivering bread to different houses to make sure everybody was fed, and just little things like that throughout the small town. And so he is very much ensconced into the community and living there. He lives in the Grant house, which he cannot really afford to live in. So he lives in the garage and rents out the house to tourists because it's a whole tourist town. So Alexis meets Daniel, sleeps
But it
with
was
him.
only but it's only a one night stand. So
Yeah.
how do
Which
they meet
they
up
both
again?
agree that they never do. So she had stolen his hoodie
Mhm.
and wanted to get back in contact with him, and
Mhm.
ended up calling back the bar that they both had met at and gets in contact with him again. It was
Mhm.
so cute. And
Mhm.
she ends up getting his phone number, and then they're just like texting back and forth. And she goes back to a con for another weekend with him. And another weekend with him is never just like a weekend of, it's a weekend of sex, but it's so much more than that. She comes and he plans like this whole date with her, and it's like a drive-in movie night where he brings his truck and he puts like fairy lights around it. His friend makes a picnic for them, and they watch like The Princess Bride, and it's so cute and it's lovely. And I love how quotes from The Princess Bride come up a few times throughout the book. I loved how it trailed throughout, and it wasn't done in a tacky way. It was done in a very specific and restrained kind of way. Do you know what I mean?
Not cheesy. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
wasn't cheesy at all. It was more like the quote was said, and then you're like, oh, yeah, that was from their first date.
So he wants to own the Grant house. He wants to own the
Yeah.
B&B, but it was
He
actually
does. So,
passed
yeah.
down.
So he does not own the Grant house. His mom owns the Grant house, and his mom is struggling in life and decides that she wants to sell it, and it's worth 500 grand, and he obviously cannot afford that. So he's trying to figure out a way to buy the house.
He opens up early because he needs the money, right? Because she
Yeah.
threatens to sell the house. She calls him up and is like, I need the money. And he's like,
For
what are you
my
talking
for
about?
Adam's bike shop, and he was just like, oh, okay, no, you're clearly high. And
Awful. Yeah.
yeah, so awful. So he opens up the house early to tourists and decides that he needs to like earn up enough money so he can buy the house from his mom. So he opens it up early, and lo and behold, it's booked. And
Who shows up?
Alexis and her friends show up. And it is both a shitty time and a really good time, because her friends are like the fucking worst.
They're awful. They're
They're
awful.
so awful. You have Gabby, who is a pediatrician, who's just like super gossipy, but like really loves her husband and fine, like gossips with him all the time. I mean, I do with my husband all the time, gossip with him. And then you have Jessica, who just hates life and hates everything, and super negative Nancy. But they're all fancy schmancy doctors who will not understand her relationship with him at all, because he's a Carhartt wearing, like,
Sexy.
unironically, man, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
also a carpenter. He makes amazing things with his hands, furniture, and everything, pieces of art. And they just like will not get it. They show up, and he is sees Alexis, and she has texted him ahead of time, "Hey, I'm 2 minutes away. Please pretend like you don't know me. Sorry." The worst. And so, but he doesn't get the text. And she shows up, and she's just like, "Hi, I'm Alexis," this whole time. And it's so cringy. It's so awful. And he's very aware that she's pretending not to know him. And it's just traumatic.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, but then the whole weekend, she finds ways to get away from her friends. She's like, oh, I have a headache. And so she ends up spending most of the weekend with him. Oh, there's like little things. Oh, but before this, when she has the date with him, there's this random townie, Popeye. He's old, he's in his 90s, and he's having a hard time. And he misses his daily lunch or breakfast at Jane's the diner, where he
I
always
thought he
goes
was
to
the
eat.
cook. Yeah. Oh, maybe not. Okay.
Oh, I
Anyways.
thought he always eats there. Of course, Daniel, being the mayor, has to go in and do his due diligence and check in on him. And Alexis is like, I'm a doctor. Let me come with you. And he's like, wait, you're what? And she's like, I'm a doctor. So let's go and check on this guy. And so they go and check on him. And then the whole ending of this is basically Popeye telling Daniel that the town keeps what it wants, or not that it keeps what it wants. What is it that it like?
It doesn't let them go. There's like
It
a
does.
magical
There's a
element to
magical
this.
element to this book that I thought was going to be so cheesy and I was going to hate, but LA, I fucking loved it. I ate
It
it,
was
I gobbled
good.
it up. It was
It was
so good.
good.
And he's just like, the town has a way of keeping the people who are meant to stay. And he's like, your mom was not meant to stay. She left. Alexis is meant to stay, and the town will find a way to keep her. And I was like, this is so cheesy. But then LA, it wasn't. It was so good. Because all throughout the book, there are these little moments that keep bringing her back in, keep bringing her back in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
just loved it. And so one of these moments was when, so back to her friends being at his house because he opened the house early and her friends are there and she's there and they're about to leave. We'll just skip a whole bunch of scenarios that are happening because sometimes it's a little bit crazy. Her friends are like outside underneath a tree and it starts raining acorns. Basically, basically to get the friends the fuck out of there, right? And like
Because they're
Daniel's like,
awful.
they're so awful. And Daniel's like noticing these acorns, and he's lived there his whole life. He's like, these acorns don't fall aren't supposed to come off of the tree until fall. Blah 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 blah. And they're like, how are they falling now? And I didn't even care how cheesy it was. I loved it, and that they were falling on these awful people and that they ran inside and they're like, okay, we're ready to leave. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, fine, I love it.
What did you think about like there's that is it the stained glass that's in the house that changes like pictures or whatever?
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
remember
because it
that?
was like butterflies, and she tried to look it up online when she
Mm-hmm.
missed him
She
a
couldn't.
lot and she couldn't
Uh-huh.
see it. It was always blacked out.
Yeah, it's just like these teeny tiny little elements throughout the book that are just a little magical. So
It's so,
I'm glad you liked it and you didn't think it was cheesy because you're totally right. It could have gone the other
but
way.
I think the best thing about it is that she didn't sink into it.
It was
It was
light.
woven in a way that it was just like, it was cute and not too much.
So there's an author, and you've read one of their books, The 7 Year Slip, Ashley
Oh.
Posen,
Yeah, I love the
and she
7 Year
wrote The
Slip.
Dead Romantics. We might be reading one of her new releases later this year, but she's known for having some magical realism within her romance books,
Uh-huh.
and people really like that aspect of it. So I thought it was I think there she wrote at the end a little bit about Abby Jimenez. She talked about a little bit the magical element. She didn't know if she should do it or not.
And then, like, throughout the book, you have like just these warm, growing feelings between Alexis and Daniel. Alexis is very much trying to keep this as just a sexual relationship, and it's very clear that it is not going to stay that way. In fact, it has really never been that way. I mean, the sex is amazing. How they get along is amazing. And she constantly compares him to Neil, which I don't really like throughout the book because I think like you can't, I don't know. I always have a problem of comparing people to like other relationships. I know it's going to happen, but you shouldn't do that.
Agreed.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I didn't really like that, but I understood it, just comparing him to Neil and about how like he's the total opposite. He's very open to her. He listens to her. And not only that, but he constantly teaches her how to do things and in a nice way. Like Neil had told her that she couldn't own the house that they have because she had no idea how to run it. And she realized, oh, well, shit, he's not completely wrong. I have no idea how to do anything in this house. And then throughout the book, she's fixing the garbage disposal. She's learning how to cook quiche. And she's doing all these little things that she's never had to do before in her life because she's just been kind of a princess, right?
Yeah. Do you know my favorite thing was when her friends were, it was the same visit, right? Her, she's learning all these things on how to, help with the house and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But he's a woodworker. And so he makes these wooden like sculptures or whatever. And
Yeah.
her friends walk in and kind of like as an FU to her own friends, she's like, oh, he sells these for like $5,000 or whatever.
Oh yeah, and
Crazy
he's
about.
trying
Do you
and he was
remember?
only trying to sell them for like two
To
tops $500,
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
upscales them to $2,000, $5,000 pieces, and her friends are just like, "Oh yeah, I'll take that. That looks great. I would love that." Like no questions asked.
I
And
loved
he's
it.
just
I
like
loved it.
and he's also like flabbergasted because he's already comped them a night or a week stay because of his dog and the acorns falling. And
And they
so
still
she
wrote a
made
bad review.
and
Ugh.
they but after that review, she just totally no more with these people. I'm not going to be their friend anymore. And I loved that. She stuck with it. She realized how terrible they were, and at that point she was done with them and only stuck with Bree. Bree is her best friend throughout the book and has so many amazing quips. I loved Bree. And she's actually the next heroine in the next book.
Yeah, I like that one better than this one.
Really? Because I started it and I don't like it better.
Okay.
Anyway, so
So you have sorry. So we talked a lot. So they're falling in
yeah.
love, they're having their
Yeah, they're
romance,
falling in
but
love. You have this two
situation, this
you have this
distance.
situation, this
Yeah.
whole this two worlds. You have her basically spending he calls it vacation, but to her she's being her true self with him on most weekends. And then she has her real life, her day-to-day, her work job life in Minneapolis, where she is living with her ex-boyfriend and doing her job at the hospital. So they're living these two lives.
So how does it all come crashing down?
Oh my God. In the worst way. So, like, her dad, like we said before, just like, well, both of her parents, mostly her dad, hates that she's not with Neil, constantly trying to push her to be with her ex boyfriend, who is just the freaking worst this whole time. And he is also constantly trying to push himself onto her, pushing himself onto her through her parents and just in all these really gross manipulative ways that I cannot stand and just made me so sick throughout the whole book. And it comes all to head because her and Daniel basically admit that they have fallen in love with each other. They're in love. She has finally admitted that he is her boyfriend and that she doesn't know what else to do. They have a 4-month timeline on their relationship because she is going for this chief of emergency position. And when she gets that job, she's going to have no time to go and see him. And he's like, well, we can make it work if you want and if you get this job. So there's a final vote at the hospital. She ends up getting the job and he shows up because he knows that it's the vote at the hospital to get the job. And he shows up to congratulate her. And everybody is mother flipping there. And it is the most cringeworthy and awful scene.
Chaotic. Chaotic.
It's
It's
so
like,
chaotic.
you know what seen it right. So do you remember in Grey's Anatomy where it's Meredith and Shepherd and then the redhead what's her name? Oh my God.
Addison.
Addison comes in. She's like, "Oh, hello. You must be so and so that's been, screwing my husband." Like it was one of those mouth drop crazy scenes. That emotion is what happens in this scene. It's just her
Yeah,
two
it's
worlds colliding.
colliding all at once. Everybody's unprepared. Everybody's unprepared because she has told nobody about him except for her best friend Bree. And he comes strolling in with flowers, and her mom and dad are there. Her two quote unquote friends, Gabby and what's her face, are there, and so is mother flippin' Neil.
Mm-hmm.
Neil gives him
Crush
like
and
a
burn.
nice like handshake. Gabby's like texting her husband what's happening, and her dad is just like cracking the fuck up. And she introduces him as her boyfriend. And she's just like, I don't know what to do right now. And he reads the scene and just walks away
Mhm.
and just sits in his truck. But then I loved that Bree finds him and tells him what's up. Like, what a good motherfucking best friend.
Mhm. See, that's
I
a friend. Yep.
I love that he wasn't allowed to dwell in the situation, that Bree came in and like told him what's what, you know? And then he went to her house. Alexis texts him to come to my house, and it's a fucking mansion. And it's all cool, like dead inside mansion. And there's her Viking stove, which she had asked him like how to use because she didn't know how to cook. And he's like, of course she's cooking on like a Viking stove top, like it's one of the most expensive ones on the line. And he goes and he follows her to her room, which he realizes has a padlock on, not a padlock, but it's like a deadbolt on it. And he goes inside, and it's totally different from the whole house. It has all the little things that he has given her. There's a heart-shaped rock that he has spent hours to find for her. His hoodie is in there. It's her own sanctuary in this dead house. And it was at that moment, too, I was thinking, why are you hanging on to this house, Alexis? You don't want it. You don't want it at all. It's not you.
It's what she's identified with, though, for so long.
Yeah. Well,
And he's showing her.
yeah. And it's what she identified as success, too. This house,
Mm-hmm.
Neil, it's what she
Mm-hmm.
thought she needed to be successful. It's what she was taught she needed. And she had to unlearn that. And then
And
she
she
breaks
does.
and yeah, but yeah. And she breaks up with them, and they have a month of misery. There's this 125th like anniversary of the hospital. She's supposed to give like this huge speech. And she does, but she flips it on its head, and she ends up giving her dad a what's what, and basically telling Neil to like fuck off. And
Daniel
oh,
comes.
Daniel comes. She invites Daniel, and he comes, and she's opening up a clinic in his little hometown because people are healing themselves with fish hooks and are sewing themselves up together with fish hooks and gin. And she's been basically a minute clinic doctor in that town since she got into a relationship with him. And I was like, ugh, I knew how this book was going to end from the very beginning. But did I care? Not at all.
No. I thought it was still crafty. I thought it was interesting because she made it sound like, oh, the hospital is still like funding these satellite
Yeah.
clinics. You know what I mean? Like she's still a
So
part of it.
she didn't have to let go of her legacy, and I loved that because honestly,
Yeah.
as somebody who holds on to those kind of traditions and things, the fact that she got to keep a hold of that meant a lot to me.
Yeah. She didn't have to give up because that's what usually, sadly, women have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She got what she wanted and she figured out how to get it. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay.
Which I don't think she would have had she not had to have gone through her struggles. You know?
Yeah. What did you think about the pregnancy?
I fucking loved it. I loved it so
Same.
much. Because they both wanted a family in LA. She's getting up there. She's getting to be 38.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she knew speaking of babies, and she knew she was gonna have to turn around and have a baby quick. So I fucking ate it up. I loved it so much.
Good. I'm glad. Because that can deter some people, like they hate
I know. But
you know.
but she talked about wanting kids throughout the whole book, right? And it's somebody getting what they wanted. It wasn't a surprise. It was a happy ending for both of them. And I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think we've had a pain and pleasure wheel that you've loved a book this much. I think this is like,
Yeah, I gobbled this book up. I gobbled it up so fast, and I started the next one in this series too, even though I should be reading our next podcast book, but I did not start that.
okay, I haven't either. Well, I read the first chapter, but like, okay, well, it's time, isn't it, to do
To
our
do a
next
little
round?
spinny spin.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna do yours first.
Okay.
Spin. I'm gonna spin.
Okay. I'm so
Okay,
nervous because I
here we
had
go.
such a good one.
Ready?
I get another pleasure. Finally. Yes, yes, yes. This is a natural pleasure. It's a natural one.
Okay.
Rare for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? So here's the thing. I know there are some books that you really want to read that I know you're really gonna like. And so
Uh-huh.
usually when I get a pleasure, I'm like, okay, well, let me check out her TBR. Let me see if she's gonna like this. But I feel like you're just coming off such a good book. I'm gonna chance
Mhm.
it. I'm gonna pick something that I recently loved and it
Uh-huh.
sidetracked all of my plans. And I want you to read it because I'm hoping you're going to love it just as much as I did. So, are you ready? Now,
I'm ready.
this is the special edition, but even the non-special edition is awesome. It's A Fate Inked in Blood
A fate inked in
by
blood.
Danielle
Fucking
Jensen.
large, LA.
It's not no, it's not large. It's not large.
Okay, 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 okay.
It's okay. It's not large. You like mythology type books, right?
Yeah,
hmm
I do. Yeah.
you like fantasy type books, right?
I
You like
do.
romance
I
type books, right?
do. Uh-huh.
This you follow, and I think her name is like Freya. Oh gosh, I already forgot her name. Yeah, Freya, Freya. So okay, so
So
you
it's like
know there's
Norse mythology.
yes. So you have
Uh-huh,
like Thor and
uh-huh.
Loki and Hel
Okay.
and all these gods, and they have children. So they bless people with a drop of their blood or whatever at conception, and they can call their gods powers. So they have children. I fucking know. So they could go, and if you're, I'm going to use the example, if you are a child of Thor, you can
Mhm.
call and control lightning. So you have powers in this book.
Okay. I love this.
So fucking good. And
Okay,
so
okay.
you have these two warring lands and they're battling with each other and there's a prophecy and they believe that in this prophecy whoever is the child a child that can it's called the shield maiden, then they're the person that can merge all these clans together and
Mhm.
control and it's so sexy. It is
Okay,
so
okay, 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 okay.
I think you're just really gonna like it. It's a wintry type book. I know we're in spring, but I definitely think that you'll like it. And
I'm super
yeah.
excited. Oh, I'm so excited.
I
Yay, thank
hope you like
you.
it because
I think I
if
will. I think I will.
yay. Okay. All
All
right.
right.
I gotta spin it. Oh, I'm
All
so
right.
excited for you.
I'm
If you
excited
but
for me
here
too.
if you don't like it, just read half of it and then just stop and then pick up something you want.
Don't do that. Don't do
That's our
that.
deal. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right,
Let's
my
see what
turn.
LA is going to get.
All right. Ready?
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3. Oh,
Ooh, what do you
pleasure.
want?
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
I want pleasure. I can't do pain again. I can't.
Okay.
I still want
I'm gonna
pleasure.
give you something that I think is kind of something that you would like to read too. It's been on your TBR, I think. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Here we have it's a college romance, and it is also a sport-ish romance. I'm gonna have you read The Deal by Elle Kennedy.
I have been waiting for an excuse to read this book.
It's
Yes.
so good. It's so charming, and it's just so sweet. I think you're going to really like it and just gobble it up,
Oh, thank you.
especially
Yay.
after reading Tryst Six Venom. I think this will be a nice little reprieve for you.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I think it was just hard.
It's not an easy read, for sure. I think the deal will be very easy to read.
Light, easy breezy. Oh, I'm so excited. Yay. You know, this is like, you have the most famous book talk series. You have started me because of this game, ACOTAR, and now this series.
You're welcome.
I think people are loving you. Okay.
I
Yay.
mean,
All right.
I would.
I do so much. I don't think you realize.
Oh, same.
Yay. All right. Oh wait, no, we're old now. How do you do it?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
We're trying to do the hand thing, but I just know the regular heart, but they stop it.
I don't know. I'm
We're
not
just
even gonna
throwing up game
try.
signs.
No. And nobody can see them. This is a podcast, LA.
Stupid.
Love
you. Bye.